a pen name. So I was watching Naruto Shippuden the other day when the passing of Jiraiya, Naruto's sensei, happened.
My throat. Jiraiya boy! You figured it out too late.
For me, the story arc of the three Sannin, Jiraiya, Tsunade and Orochimaru is one of the best storylines throughout the whole show. It was so sad to see Pain kill Jiraiya, his master too, and then watch all of the emotions the other characters go through in the aftermath. The reason sadness is such a powerful moving motif throughout Naruto is because the show emphasizes the importance of relationships, friendships, masters and students, mentors and mentees, parents and child, rivals and brotherhood, Hokage and village. All of these groupings play on the emotions of the viewers. No matter how isolated your life may be, there is a storyline and relationship in Naruto that you relate to. Especially if you are isolated, you will understand the pain of loneliness, which is the driving force in both Naruto and Sasuke's story. So to see that Naruto finally finds a father figure and a family and then watch how they get taken away really does gut punch the viewer with that melancholic motif. After Jiraiya's death, the characters start looking back on the books he wrote in order to crack the code for a secret message he left them. Naruto discovers how Jiraiya actually told his lived real ninja missions as a fake character called Naruto while on his quest to bring peace to the ninja world. We then find out that Naruto Uzumaki actually gets his name from that book Jiraiya wrote, The Gutsy Ninja. The fourth Hokage, Minato, who is Naruto's dad, names his son after the character in the book to honour his sensei, who is also Jiraiya.
I thought that his determination to never give up was pretty awesome. He's actually quite a lot like you, Sensei.
Yeah? You think so?
So, I was thinking, I really hope my soon-to-be-born child can become an amazing shinobi just like the main character in your book. So that's why I'd like to ask your permission to name my son after him.
As you can see, that's a very emotional play on relationships just in a small segment. But the idea that a real story had to be told fictionally to save the world was part of a whole prophecy scheme in the show.
The great Lord Elder prophesied that I would be the one to guide a revolution, a person who will make a great choice that will bring either peace or destruction to the world of the shinobi.
But this whole idea of the real shinobi world stories being written into books reminded me of the conspiracy theory world of hiding information in plain sight and the espionage world in a show called Under Ninja. Under Ninja. Under Ninja is a fairly new anime and it focuses on a very real reality of espionage and the role of shinobi throughout history and modern warfare. It follows the story of a group of young ninja engaged in a secret war undercover as high school kids. Although the show has some fantastical ideas and elements to it, like Metal Gear Solid style camouflage, ninjutsu, and the use of giant satellite lasers for combat scenarios, it would be silly to deny the existence of its influence that comes in the form of one of history's most renowned regiments of warriors, Shinobi.
日本で最後の公認忍者の方ですよね。
昔ながらのね、かつてのその江戸記憶もね、以前からのその修行生態を持ってずっとやってる人間っていうのはもういなくなってしまったものですからですね。まあそういう意味合いでのことだと思いますね。
なるほど。今おいくつなんですか？
私今年で70でまだ69なんです。
To downplay the significance and the validity of this historical fighting style and combat training would be like saying snipers or drone pilots are not valid parts of a modern army. As much as TV and media would have you believe a very caricatured version of a ninja dressed in black jumping around with a sword and a mask, that's not the full picture. And even the show makes light of this trope by having a European spy come to Japan and ask normal people where he can find ninjas.
そういうものについてどう思いますか？
戦うイメージがものすごく強いでしょ。ほとんどそのファイターみたいなね。なんかちょっとっていうか違う。そういうところね。むしろ戦いを避けるものが忍者なんですよね。だって生きて帰って両方抑えることできないから。だからそういう基本的に戦うためではないよ。
Even modern special operations soldiers all over the world are still trained in the art of stealth combat, which incorporates the same tactics and ideas that the now mythologized shinobi used to use.
もともとは忍びのものといったらその名の通りね、忍ぶもの。じゃあ密かな行動を起こしてある目的を持って活動する任務を帯びたものが忍び。
誰かを殺めることはできますか？
簡単ですよ。いろんな手法があるからね。
ってことはそういうのも忍者としてはもう知ってる。
そう忍びずには確実にその忍という字にはね、やはり残忍の忍という意味合いもあるんですよね。だからその躊躇なく
One of the most beautiful representations in the show of what it would mean to be a ninja in that world is the simple role of a shopkeeper lady who has been watching over the neighborhood children the whole time but has always been a highly trained, masterless ninja hidden in plain sight.
もともと普通の人たちだったんですけど、どんな方々だったんですか？
普通の庶民ですよね。支配者に対する、反抗、要するに自由、自立、自存のための手法手段ですね。そういったものが戦いに役立つわけですよね。そうすると戦国民が雇うわけです。それは忍びのもんで雇うわけですね。
忍者っていうのってどんな意味が含まれた言葉なんですか？
忍者っていうのも今新しい言葉なんですよ。あれ昭和の30年代ですから、1960年。
It would be no different to a special ops agent undercover, except the show is exposing how the shinobi world is like the secret police being a key player in the backbone and structure of the real world government and the running of a smooth society. The show captures the role of Japan's quote-unquote ninja in modern warfare and espionage, which is quite a fresh look at the much-loved anime archetype. But to avoid spoiling the show, I will only speak about one of the more minor plot lines which ironically lays the foundation for the larger scheme of the manga and anime in our real world.
今回も全部書き直し。担当の鈴木さんは私のことを嫌ってるのだろうか。私は吉田明和、歴史小説家である。作家になり20数年、全く売れてないので、現在は詩弁小説、いわゆる歴史改編 SF を書いてここをしのいでいる。
Silent voices. In the anime Under Ninja, we are introduced to a writer who somehow catches the attention of the shinobi world with one of his books that covers some of the real stories lived by ninjas. I wonder if this may be a reference to the real world writers, animators and movie makers. Hint hint. As a ninja, you are not supposed to be seen or heard. Technically, you are not even supposed to exist. So like a modern secret agent or spy, you wouldn't be able to have friends, family, and you would be prohibited from talking about your story, as you would jeopardize not only yourself and your relationships, but the national security of your country.
されてる方だったんですか？
忍びの術を代々伝えてるわけですね。戦時中は特務機関でいいんですけど、そういう特務スパイですね。そういう仕事をして。
その人にじゃあ目をかけられたってことですよね。
いや、私はね、変人、今見えてる。ずっとそのなんていうの、あまり人と喋ったりしない、ぼつっとしてるっていうタイプだったので、安心感もあったかなと。
なるほど、おしゃべりすぎないし。
So for a writer to actually know the true story of a ninja and write it gave more than acknowledgement. It gave validation to the ninja's existence, struggle, reality and sacrifice. Even in the real world, the advent of this emulation of stories would have been a phenomenon the first time it occurred in history. The telling of war stories and conquests of visible war heroes and generals was nothing new, but disclosing the stories of the soldiers, agents and organizations in the shadows that make those victories possible was.
私は水道もガスも止められていて貧窮していた。私は危険を承知で小説を書き、出版にこぎつけた。7人の忍者大使皇帝を奪還せよはそこそこ売れたが、読者は詩弁小説と思い真に受ける者はいなかった。しかしその詩弁小説が忍者に伝わったのか。
The idea almost revolutionized the next generation of agents and ninja psychology. They were no longer just nameless numbers, tools forgotten in history. They now mattered, even if only as fictionalized versions of themselves.
川上先生自体はどういうふうに伝えられていったり、どういうふうに人々に忍者はこういう人だと伝えられていったりですか？
だっては絶対ダメですよ。男な子によりもなく知名も有名もなしってね、何もないけど、私たちはこういう働きしてるので今自己満足みたいなもんですね。それが本当の忍びのもののね、一番の情にであるということですね。
To personify this idea, imagine the feelings Alfred and Bruce Wayne felt at the end of that Dark Knight movie when they see each other in that European cafe. That silent nod of comrades that acknowledges all the history of heroism, unspoken, sacrifice and losses. That is the metaphor of what it would mean for a shinobi to have his or her story told. So in Under Ninja, the shinobi would visit the writer in the dead of night as he lay there asleep. One night, he wakes up terrified and feels the presence of someone sitting there next to him. However, he knows if he looks at that person in the room, he will die. So he lays there paralyzed by fear, not looking and not speaking. And to his surprise, the ninja begins to speak.
そうしても割と構わない。奴はチキン、俺をきちんと落雷ポイント誘い出して、戦わずして命中。奴は卒業試験、合格獲得。俺はそっとしてようやく回復。奴は終始笑みを浮かべ、俺は昇進闇を。
By the work of the universe, he had unintentionally become some kind of psychiatrist for the ninja, but one who only listens, an ear for voices who are sworn to silence. The fact that the shinobi were not allowed to disclose their life stories also puts them at a big risk of death from their land and clan, so for the writer and the ninja, anonymity was paramount, kinda like how mob bosses disclose things to Catholic priests. Now the circumstances differ from the autobiographical style of Jiraiya actually writing his life, but both methods still achieve the same goal of getting the knowledge and the lessons learned from these missions out there.
この人は外れだな。忍者たちが自らの存在を伝え始め十数年。
起きろ。
その忍者は違った。
お前か、忍びどものヨタ話を。
The writer would have to lay there and memorize the stories to the best of his ability, then write them into his novels later. Eventually, more ninjas caught on to what was happening and began to visit him more frequently in the night, so the writer made it a habit to leave his windows open and his doors unlocked. This carried on for a while, but eventually it stopped, which signifies the almost inevitable outcome of a killed in action. With no name or face, the history and existence of a shinobi would have been lost forever, and the battles and assassinations that tip the scales and turn the tides in wars never acknowledged, if not for their stories being fictionalized.
In the shinobi world, it's not how you live, it's how you die. A shinobi's life is not measured by how they live, but rather it's measured by what they manage to accomplish before their death.
Uchiha's Way. The story of Itachi in Naruto is the prime example of the ninja code in action and the burden of secrecy on a soldier and agent.
You've got to be kidding me.
I'll say it once more. You think you know all about your older brother, but you know nothing.
If you continue spouting such nonsense and lies, I'll kill you right here.
If it hadn't been for his side of the story being told by others in his death, no one, especially his brother Sasuke, will know the incredible sacrifice he made for his little brother and village. Bearing the burden of being tarred and disgraced as a villain and rogue, all the while knowing his actions were that of a hero, was truly one of the most gangster things I've ever seen in any storytelling.
Each of us lives dependent and bound by our individual knowledge and our awareness. All that is what we call reality. However, both knowledge and awareness are equivocal. One's reality might be another's illusion. We all live inside our own fantasies. Don't you think that's true, Sasuke?
Just what are you trying to say?
Under the village's orders of an impossible mission to reconcile emotionally, Itachi is ordered to murder his whole clan in order to prevent them from overthrowing the village leadership, then embed himself within an organization and feed intel back to the village. With all the twists, turns and hidden plot reveals, his story highlights the overarching politics at play in the real-world governance of countries and the show.
That fateful night. It is true that he slaughtered the entire Uchiha clan, and then fled the Hidden Leaf village.
Then...
But it was his mission to do so. He was ordered by leaders of the Hidden Leaf. And that is just the beginning of the truth about Itachi.
The misfortune of his life represents the role shinobi have played for their country throughout history, and the dilemma of spies, special ops groups and blackened names in documents to operate from the shadows so that people can live safely in the light. It's not hard to see how this could very well be someone's real story. But the problem with history being told by the quote-unquote victors is it always sweeps the sacrifices of soldiers like Itachi under the rug, even though they are the foundations and pillars of their said victory.
Tell me. What is it? Answer me!
Let me tell you a little about the past, particularly the history of the Uchiha. Back then, Madara had a younger sibling.
History doesn't like to record the names of the men and women who sacrificed themselves to infiltrate groups and places for their country, as their roles would bring their leaders into question. Itachi's show of strength and resilience through his dedication, planning and foresight leaves so many great lessons behind him for the next generation, and it's why there is truly power in sharing a story like his in the real world through a fictional character, both for leaders and soldiers. For your eyes only. Now, let's get back to reality. Just imagine for a minute the sacrifices and victories of your very own ancestors went unacknowledged. how would that make you feel? Would you feel dishonored by history if your own personal efforts towards their legacy went unrecognized and untold? So always remember, the reason we have things like poppies and minutes of silence is to recognize the collective lives and efforts of people as a group. And the reason we tell our stories through various mediums is to acknowledge the efforts of individuals throughout history. So yes, James Bond, Agent 47, Mulder and Scully are all fictional characters, but somewhere, at some point in history, a real person lived something way more incredible and ridiculous sounding than anything that those writers could ever think of. So in the interest of helping people in the future, I want to encourage you to tell your story, even if you have to do it through fictional characters. One day, your great-grandchildren will want to know all about the stories you lived through and extract knowledge and wisdom and guidance in your absence. On a larger scale, each generation is the child of another, and it's the responsibility of each generation to make progress. If the great warriors, soldiers, politicians, writers, activists, artists and educators, all storytellers, didn't leave a trail pointing to the mistakes of the past and solutions for the future, mankind would truly be lost. So just like the hieroglyphs in Egypt and the Stonehenge in the UK, you must leave your mark on the earth, even if your story goes from real life to legend, then myth. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. QR code on the screen, feel free to donate, and don't forget you can click here to check out our latest videos. Until next time, let's hunt.